Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Arwin, Mitchell from Australia, Chocolate Saying, Brian's Logic, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Thanks, Mr. Break the Show.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
G'day.
G'day, good afternoon, welcome. Oh, what an enthusiastic start to you. You've all added brilliant stuff already, and it's only just got going, so fantastic, thank you. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
It's night time here. I'm literally hearing crickets.
Well, I'm always saying that Virus says he doesn't need a flat plane. He could do it on a sphere. Let's go, Virus. Show us.
No, you can't acquire an angle from a curved surface. That's not possible. It's two straight lines. That's what an angle is.
Even in their model, they don't acquire an angle from a curved surface.
Oh, what we got? Someone's presenting something. What you got, Arwin?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I had a funny second half of my show today with a Kumu virus in my chat and some others claiming that, we don't need the horizon with the sextant because we can use bubbles, right? Well, then I searched up, when was the first bubble sextant even invented? And guess who developed it and for what reason? It was Admiral Byrd. And where? For what? For airplanes, right? So not navigation on the ocean.
Oh. Yeah, that is still navigation. We covered this on Friday, coincidentally, Arwin. So just because you're navigating above the surface doesn't mean you're not navigating the surface. And in order to use a bubble sextant, you've got to have parallel zeniths, i.e. the line that you draw out with your bubble when you establish horizontal with that tool is parallel with the ground. So you can still have 90 degrees at the GP of the star. So it makes no odds. It's the what did you call it? The dip trap? I've forgotten what you called it, 10th.
To dip or not to dip, that is the correction. And just a little correction, it was Gago Coutinho, the Portuguese, who invented the bubble sextant for the marine sextant.
Admiral Byrd may have utilised it in a practical way for the first time, maybe. But no, it certainly wasn't him that invented it.
Okay, well, Wiki says that. So...
Oh, you Wiki parroter. Yes, thank you, Arwin. No, other than that, yeah, great. Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, but it just stood out to me hey, that means 20th century. Hey, it's specifically for airplanes. That makes sense, right? Because a gliding airplane is not going to be wobbling on its axis, right? So it can keep the bubble level enough. It would actually be a useful tool. On a ship, however, on the ocean, no, it wouldn't. It would be incredibly impractical.
Right.
I've shared this before. I'll share it again. They have to fly longitudinally for 2 minutes, and the pilot's told to keep it as steady as you can, especially with the air currents up there. And then the navigator shoots for 2 minutes the star every 15 seconds. And then they get the average of those 60 sightings, and that's how they do it. And so it was copied from the marine sextant, but since they were in the air, they said, how can we utilize the stars? And they said, well, we need to match a what? A baseline. How do they get a baseline? A bubble, a horizontal. Well, let's see if it needs a horizontal to work. What do you think the Earth's surface is after dip correction?
I'm just going to play this clip from Tune that's been provided.
When Mitchell from Australia and Mr. Sensible were going back and forth, they kind of both had a point, because it seems like there's you could do it using both methods. Would you agree with that?
No. There is no triangulation in celestial navigation. It's about it's about the distance and about the angle to the GP. So you can draw it on your chart, draw a line there, and then you do it for all three, and you get your intersection. So it is actually triangulation. You can draw a triangle, solve the triangle, and know the angle that the light, or that the object, must appear to be. And so we can do triangulation, but we have to presume that the Earth is flat. But if you're doing doing triangulation, you do a triangle on the surface of flat Earth, presuming flat Earth, you get then
Hello, everybody. This is unusual.
Sorry, that was the video from Flat Earth Math that I clicked on and it started playing. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's that. So, Mitch.
Was that serious?
Everyone else.
Did I hear?
Hello. Just Mitch. It's him that's got the point on this. Go ahead, Mitch.
It just seemed like a very awkward ending there when he realised what he was just saying, that he has to presume the flat Earth and draw the triangle on that flat Earth. Triangulation actually does work. Very, very awkward.
Indeed, he's conceded the point. I just wanted you to point that out, Mitch. Indeed, that's a concession. Yes, you have to have a flat Earth to acquire an elevation angle. Has anybody else got anything on elevation angles? We'll move on with housekeeping, if not.
Who's the lucky winner of the $10,000?
Nobody ever will be, because all Toon will ever do, because of this in the pre-show, was claim that, no, what you've used with that Cartesian flat map is actually global. See that flat map? With length, breadth and depth being accounted for? Yeah, that's actually got a curved bottom to it, even though the baseline for the map is a flat baseline. He'll just do that. He's just a weasel. Nobody should ever be...
Can I ask Mitchell?
Go on.
I was going to ask Mitchell, was the person speaking there a flat earther?
Yes. Was there anything else on the sextant or elevation angle argument? If not, we're going to move on with housekeeping. One last call.
Yes, but I'll post it after you're done with
No, can we do it now? I don't mind if there's a small gap.
Well, I just need time to post it in Master B, so...
No, okay, we'll move on then. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Is that the horizon you have to use for an elevation angle measurement with a sextant?
No, because the elevation angle sextant measurement's just using the actual horizon that appears to us if we look and we can see a horizon. Whereas when I ask for any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, that would be a geometric horizon that you cannot see, cannot measure, doesn't exist, only exists in their sphere Earth mathematics that excludes perspective. So no.
So you're definitely not using a physical Earth curve horizon when using a sextant then. It's impossible to get an elevation angle. It's a refracted horizon, they tell us.
That's correct. So we don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, even though it was formally claimed to be Earth curve, because if the Earth was a sphere with a horizon distance measurement at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height of feet, it would put that horizon prior to the oil rigs in the Black Swan, and it's vastly beyond them. Ergo, the horizon's not a geometric sphere edge formerly known as Earth curve.
Would you have to use that sextant through what do they call that again? The atmosphere?
Atmo what now?
Atmosphere?
Atmo begging the question now.
Yeah. But would you have to use the sextant through that? Because how can we ever see the geometric horizon through the atmosphere when we're told now by the very people who purport this shit that you could never see the geometric horizon because we have an atmosphere?
Yes, that's great, but the only problem that arises for them in that instance is if they're trying to bastardise dip correction into something that's global, and they don't see the geometric horizon. That's the end of that argument. They don't have straight lines to anything ever to get tangent points for their tangent planes either. So no, that debunks it on all counts. But when it comes to just the process of celestial navigation, unfortunately for them, it doesn't require a geometric physical sphere edge Earth curve horizon. It requires you use the horizon to establish a horizontal baseline. That would be a flat plane. It's not establishing geometric Earth curve with the sextant. You're measuring an angle. That's two straight lines. Definitely not the ground curving, because it wouldn't give you an angle. But the horizon's just used to establish that horizontal baseline in that instance, i.e. celestial navigation. Not a claim we're making. The well-documented process of celestial navigation.
Eli, you're clipping, Eli.
Well, the one thing I know, I was just my bad, because I have a local mute and I was trying to figure out when to get in. My bad, Nathan, if you guys heard that.
Nathan, I got that. Okay, after Eli's done, you can go to Mastery. I got this slide up.
Yeah, so I think it was AI who said that they ridicule us and straw men so that people don't see the actual level of scrutiny that goes into the globe. And when we're talking about a geometric horizon, we're literally talking about the measure to the obstruction as a consequence of the geometric shape you live on. That's it. It's the measure of how much you can see before the obstruction as a consequence of the geometric shape you live on. To say that we do not see this obstruction for any reason means that there is no measurement to any obstruction. It's that simple.
Just to clarify, that obstruction Eli's talking about is Earth curve, by the way. There is no Earth curve.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was just going to say, what's the geometric horizon also known as? Like, what's its more normal name?
Earth curve.
Earth curve.
Yeah.
So we don't see Earth curve as stated by the Globers.
That's correct.
Does that strike as anybody as a problem?
Well, here's the thing I wanted to add to. I got a little diagram I tagged Eli in. This is how I depict or describe to as what it is. But the funny thing is when they invoke, refraction or any of that, which they don't even know what that is, that point of tangency, that bulge, will not relocate. It will still be there. It will still block buildings. It'll still block things.
Unless, of course, we live on a handball that's moving back and forth and changing size at will.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. It's like describing it as a hill that gets in the way. You never wake up one day and find that the hill that was getting in the way of things suddenly is behind the things it was getting in the way of. It's absurd. So their explanation for it is to say, well, we've got no straight lines to anything ever. It's all refracted, including the horizon, which is formerly the obstruction we claimed to be proven by way of its physical blockage of things. But now that in itself is now refracted also. It's like, so you're telling me there's no straight lines to the horizon ever. That's correct. That's their rebuttal, refraction. So where'd you get a tangency point? How'd you draw a straight line? How'd you measure an angle? How'd you do anything? The answer is you don't. Well, how do you do those things? Well, you do actually do them on a flat plane with straight lines and flat baselines, don't you? That's how they're actually done in the well-documented celestial navigation. Not our claim that it just works that way. No, it does actually function that way and still functions that way and is used to this day by people who navigate. Doesn't matter that we don't do it. Makes absolutely no difference when we highlight the well-documented, detailed, flat Earth celestial navigation and its processes. We don't have to do it. We just detail how it works and how it can't work on a sphere.
I've got an article that details how it works.
Well, feel free. Let's go ahead. I've got it up on screen, 10th. Let's just go through this and then we'll move on to the next housekeeping question.
John, you'll like this. A bubble sextant, MKIXA, instrument and case. Donor, Harry Drader, 2004. The bubble sextant, MKIXA, was an aerial navigation device used in World War II, where a normal sextant device requires an observer to be parallel to the horizon. The bubble sextant creates an artificial horizon that allows the observer to use the device in situations where the observer cannot be parallel. This is especially important in aeronautical navigation, as the observer cannot always rely on flat surfaces, such as the ocean. For reference, the bubble sextant was first manufactured in the 20s with the rise of aerial travel, eventually becoming an essential tool used in aerial combat during the Second World War.
Epic.
Notice all the
Epic. I love it. Yeah, read it and weep.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Indeed.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Anybody else got any comments on Earth curve? Physical geometric, formerly known as?
I would love somebody who believes that this Earth curve exists to come and tell us how we're wrong. That would be great.
Yeah, we're not wrong. In reality, their model, which isn't in reality, but as a turn of phrase, has everything in a position that it isn't really located. Everything is always refracted, without exception, because of their claim of atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. Well, if air is sphere-shaped and bending light at a standard rate based on an R value we debunked in 2020, then literally you can put your hand in front of your face and it isn't where you think it is, because the light's bending, right? Well, in this diagram now from National Geographic, you've got the straight line they use as a tangent point to claim that there's a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon blocking the boat. Notice that the boat is a massive scale differential between that and the sphere it sits on. That's because there's no perspective in Earth curve maths. It's a 10 or 100-foot boat versus a 6-foot man at any distance. Ergo, when it disappears, it's only going to be claimed to be the physical geometric sphere-edge horizon called Earth curve that got in the way. Here's their rebuttal when we point out that the horizon's behind the oil rigs as depicted on Simon Dan's stupid face. They say it's refracted. That would be a bent line to the horizon that's now beyond the thing it formerly blocked with its physicality. So they haven't got a straight line ever. How are you going to measure an angle? How are you going to draw out a tangent plane? How are you going to do anything that is used in celestial navigation? The answer is they can't and they don't. And neither does celestial navigation, it just does everything on a flat plane.
You said their model, which I can't agree to that, because the celestial sphere model, you can't have a point of tangency in that model. Else you would have never measured the angles to create that model.
That's correct. The entire basis of the curve maths is wrong, because what they've drawn out as a tangent point to claim physical obstructions at the horizon was derived from a flat Earth elevation angle measurement in the first place and the celestial sphere and equatorial plane that is based on. So all of the curve maths is immediately voided, because it's essentially trying to prove that a flat Earth isn't a flat Earth when they've measured it to get the maths in the first place. It's absurd.
Right, like the geoid model, how they extend an imaginary line through the continents.
There's no exceptions. All of them. They all need a flat plane. There is no exceptions.
It's flat hijacking. Technically, we should be asking them where their model is, because they don't have one. Their model is our model. It's derived from the reality of a flat plane. So it's all just flat hijacking.
That's why I issued my challenge the way I did. You know, I'm willing to debate anyone, anytime, anywhere, and they can choose the model I'll defend, and they can control the mute button, choose the moderator, whatever. But they have to choose a model, and they can even choose mine.
I love your phraseology.
Oh, that would be nice.
My model.
Oh, look.
Go on, Brian.
My model is the globe model. That's my model. Now, in reality, I live on a flat Earth, but my model is the globe model because that's derived from the flat Earth that I live on.
See, so all those years I said that I still had an appreciation for the heliocentric model and its beauty. I can now say, and its beauty derived from a flat plane and the elevation angle measurements that were taken when you describe it on a celestial sphere as opposed to the ground. Well, we don't actually reside on a projected up celestial sphere called a globe. We took the measurements of the angles from the equatorial plane, which is the flat plane we actually dwell atop, measure and navigate along. So therefore we do live on a flat plane, and the projection of that flat plane up to replace the celestial dome of the heavens at your position with perspective is very eloquent. We still live on a flat plane, and that's proven out by the globe model, because that was measured from a flat plane to derive it in the first instance. As eloquent as that may be, and how admirable it may be, to try and describe.
Wait a minute, Nathan.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, wait a minute, Nathan. I got a giraffe in my garage. It's there, but you can't see it. Isn't that proof?
I mean, if you've got a giraffe, I don't know you very well. I'll take you at face value if you say that you've got a giraffe. Why would I suspect you're lying?
But you can't see it though. You can never see it. It's there,
you've
though.
got an invisible giraffe, have you? What's your point? I don't follow.
Well,
the point, the geometric horizon pointed to that point where you supposed. Where is that? I want that geometric horizon. I want that curve that blocks everything.
Yeah, so do they. It's in their maths, marked with the next labelled horizon and formally claimed to be blocking boats and buildings with a feet and inches value that doesn't account for perspective because it doesn't change with distance. Unlike angular size, things get smaller as they get further away. Earth curve is not the only reason things disappear in the distance. It used to be claimed that way from 2015 through 2020. Now it still is, and they need a physical horizon. It just causes them a lot of problems when they need angles and tangent planes and basically a flat Earth to do anything with. It ruins everything, in fact.
Now that you point that out, I'd like to point out, because I remember giving Dave versus Dave Weiss's debate a lot of critique. But what Dave Weiss did get out of Professor Dave is to say something fundamentally dumb. And that's that you can't detect curvature from the surface of the Earth. Professor Dave, 2022. So thank you very much, Dave Weiss.
Dave said that? These clowns. Oh, my God.
Shout out to Godzilla37. It says, breaking news. NASA and British Petroleum have combined forces in a collaborative effort to refuel Elon's Tesla, which apparently has run out of fuel. Story at 11. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Professor Dave was just being honest there. You can't. There is no curvature detectable. No, let's say, consistent or curvature detectable on the surface of Earth. So you'd have to start using the celestial sphere model and making all kinds of claims about that. You know,
isn't that a little funny, being that the fairy tale of boats and buildings disappearing from the surface? That's their proof of Earth curve.
Well, it's not detectable according to the rest of it.
No, boats fall over the horizon. They don't disappear. They fall over.
They fall over an edge, right?
Boats falling over Earth curve. I love that reversal of, I was going to say effery. Trying to keep the bad language to a minimum. But that nonsense, it's nice to spin it back on them. Because, you know, for any of us who do have a model affliction still in the flat Earth community, hopefully that will fade with time. But that is a utilised tool by our opponents to get us to have a model that they can hold up in false dichotomy. And that starts with the Flat Earth Society pizza pie rising up at 9.8 metres per second through space with stars and a vacuum and a boat falling over the edge. So they go, oh, you flat earthers, have you found your edge? The boats fall over it. Well, no. But your globe's got an edge called Earth curve, and you think boats fall over that? Me, I don't buy into any nonsense models. That's a reification fallacy. Beautiful, though, your heliocentric model based on a flat plane is.
Yeah, but I remember being taught in school, 1 second, Brian, and that was the first thing that they showed us, I think it was in first and second grade, that people used to think the Earth is flat, and there goes a boat falling over the edge, and everybody laughed. So it's indoctrination from a very early age.
Well, what they have to do is... Sorry, go on, Chocolate, I'll go after.
No, go ahead, man.
Okay, thank you. What they have to do is they have to claim that there is no, like they're in that position that Professor Dave is at the moment, where make the claim that there is no detectable curvature to the surface of Earth, and then make claims with the celestial sphere model. It's a double admittance that the Earth is not a globe, because the celestial sphere model uses the horizontal coordinate system. It's a local system, as in it only goes as far. Like, I mean, what I mean is that it'll go as far as the star will go in your vision. So, let's say you could get a 5,400 mile distance to the GP of a star. Let's just say using that model, but they must make claims about that and appeal to that when that is flat Earth. I mean. That's what they got nothing. Like that's why they have to they're back at pointing to the stars. They've spent a couple of years and they've been absolutely destroyed on the surface of Earth. They're back at pointing to the stars, and now they're harping on about spectroscopy. So it's a sad show.
Good segue. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No,
Correct.
No,
well, I like how they try to
evidence
evoke using radar to try to get the distance, which is a spectrum of light. All electromagnetic frequencies are a spectrum of light. And they claim the surface of the sun is a black body, which absorbs all electromagnetic frequencies. So the duration from there and back, how do you control that variable?
Hold on, I hate to do this to you. There's a minor double-speak correction. They claim it's almost a black body, and QE takes great delight in pointing out that there's no such...
Nearly.
I'm nearly there.
Yeah.
Don't ruin the reply. I'll try again. QE takes great delight in pointing out that when they claim it's almost a black body, that's a very binary thing. It either is or it isn't. But there we go. That's just a double-speak contradiction they like to throw in just in case anyone says, well, no, they don't say it's a black body. They say it's almost a black body. It's like almost parallel. Anyway, carry on, whoever that was.
Brian.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they got it. The surface is 5,600 Kelvin. I believe that's where they get the almost black body because the center isn't. They claim.
Yeah, but all their claims come from spectroscopy, and spectroscopy only ever, celestial spectroscopy, not terrestrial spectroscopy. And within celestial spectroscopy, they make the caveat, that they are detecting what's just prior to the sun, not the actual sun. So they don't have any actual information on the sun. If you look at their actual claim, it's all based around gases and things that are prior to the sun. It's not the sun itself. It's all begging the question.
Right. Which is something highlighted on many occasions by our fellow ballbuster, PhD, John D. So he is a qualified spectroscoper, and that's his field. He does spectroscopy, if you do spectroscopy, but in a controlled manner. Terrestrial spectroscopy, if you want to call it that, is, in a contained environment where you don't have anything between you and the thing you're studying. It's in a sealed chamber and a very controlled situation. Whereas when you're doing stellar spectroscopy, you're not. You're dealing with vast amounts of stuff between you and the thing you presume you're measuring. So there's a lot of assumption that goes into it, and one has piggybacked off the back of a lot of valid research in actual spectroscopy, which is a shame. As I say, one of our fellow ballbusters is in that field. That is his field, in fact. So there you go. Did I shout out that second super chat? Sorry, go ahead, whoever that was.
Oh, yeah. It does also beg the question: what's in between the sun and the Earth? Because its mainstream claims that the sun shoots out water as well.
There's something else too. They're talking about radar, right? The return angle of the radar. How will you measure that?
You're gonna need a flat earth for that. I love you, John. You're on fire. You have been for about a fortnight. Oh, brilliant. Shout out to Shatner's Bassoon. He says it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Upton Sinclair. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Shatner's Bassoon. Really appreciate the support.
Is there any evidence to what the sun is? How about that?
No, just evidence for what the sun does.
Brian, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was, yeah. There are two, all of this, not so much spectroscopy as much, although it's involved, I'm sure, but all our claims, they're constantly begging the question of a two-way speed of light, right? Within all their celestial claims, the two-way speed of light is always coming into the frame. There is no two-way speed of light measurement. It's a calculation that's based on, right? I won't even go into all of it. The first average is an average radius of a globe Earth. The second average is the average distance of a globe Earth to its heliocentric sun over a 12-month period. They've never measured any one-way speed they have no idea whether this, like when they get a return signal, they have no idea how fast the signal went to where they wanted to go or how fast it's coming back to them. It's equivalent to you driving to somewhere for an hour and driving back without a speedometer in your car and then claiming your car was going 671 million miles an hour. You have no idea what speed you are going. You know, it's complete and utter rubbish. It's all based around this guy, old Romer, who, what he did, the basis of what he did is, I have it there. Romer measured the speed of light by timing eclipses of Jupiter's moon, right? And like he needed, right, within what he did, he used the globe out radius, and he also had to use Kepler's analemma, which is give him an average radius and an average distance to the heliocentric sun over a 12-month period. It's total and utter nonsense. It's two averages. Averages are not measurements. Averages are calculations, and it's all based on a lot of heliocentric nonsense. The whole thing is debunked by the Black Swan. They got nothing, but yet they'll do everything and claw and grab and bite and do everything they have to do to try and hold on to this two-way speed of light measurement that doesn't exist.
Okay, so I'm going to just pause the screen, John. Are you around?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I discussed at the top of the show, Sly Sparkane has got various different proofsies of a globe that require flat Earth elevation angle measurements to be taken. And he's using one of them as sticks and shadows and various measurements to bodies in the sky. I just wanted you to go through the one that doesn't require the horizon, so with your well at Cyan and your 500 miles distance, etc., etc. Can you go through that with us? Just, I want this to be a focal point just for the next few minutes, if that's okay with you.
Well, yeah, Eratosthenes just measured an angle using I think it's claimed to be a stick, an obelisk, but he measured an angle from the tip of the shadow to the top of the stick using a flat baseline for 500 miles to the GP of the sun at the time. That required a flat Earth.
Very simple, very eloquent, and very much part of their claims to date. It's going to be a fun ride, pointing this out to them all. Like I say, I started with Sly. I just went through and time-stamped all of the points that he'd had to measure an angle and proved the flat Earth when he did so. Fun times. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, there's absolutely no evidence for that. Of all the things they have zero evidence for, that is probably the least amount of evidence that is possible, that they possibly have. It's for that. It's the worst claim ever.
Well, actually, it comes in second to the worst claim, but you're close, Brian. The worst claim ever is that there's a guy down there with a sextant next to that thing.
Yes.
Center of the Earth mode.
Oh no, courageous.
Well, when you get to centre of Earth, it's the segue into saying, well, no, how are you going to move centre of Earth mode if you can't measure the angle off the surface in the first place? So the greatest embarrassment, in terms of an argument, is the globe itself, because the globe's based on flat Earth.
And Neil, when I'm doing that, it's Night Rider, not Courageous Cat.
No, I'm using Courageous Cat, though, and Minute Mouse.
Okay.
Hey, Tom and Jerry, let's move on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Any evidence of an axis?
I heard an echo. One more time.
Well, the thing I want to question is with the their claim on the moon pulling the tides and then pulling the Earth, and the Earth spins inside the tides. With the axial rotation and the equatorial bulge, wouldn't that collide, causing a force that will have tides come to the center of it and crash and have tsunamis that are widely spread?
What bulge?
Well, they claim 14 miles, 16 miles roughly around there, equatorial bulge at the equator because of the moon.
What you mean? So there's not one radius? I thought it was meant to be 39, 59. So it's not somewhere?
Slightly chubby.
Uh-oh.
Pear shape.
Here's the problem. You could talk to a baller, anti-flat earther, whoever, even the so-called science teachers in school. I don't feel like I'm spinning. Do you? No, I don't either. But we are. Well, if you don't know you're spinning, but you believe you're spinning, and I know I'm not spinning, so I don't believe I'm spinning. Those are two beliefs based on what? Logic and common sense and your senses, right? So even they have to admit we don't feel the spin that they want to attribute to this ball.
No, but they
Think
claim
about
Coriolis.
the nonsense of that.
Well, they claim Coriolis drift, don't they? So they claim that in an example, again given in Sliced Barcane, is utilising Bob Nodell's claimed to be proofsy of a spinning ball Earth in the form of a gyroscope. Well, that's a Coriolis claim. 2 reference frames, Earth turning underneath. Well, that means Earth turns underneath. That is what Coriolis is. You on a turning reference frame, like a roundabout, ball gets thrown over the top of the roundabout. When you're turning underneath it, you look at the ball and it looks like it curves. It doesn't. It's you turning underneath. So the effect of Coriolis is only induced if you turn underneath. Does Earth turn underneath helicopters? No, it does not. Does Earth turn underneath drones? No, it does not. Does Earth turn underneath aeroplanes or hot air balloons or you if you jump up and down? No, it does not. So what's the response we get from anti-flat earthers? We get told we wouldn't expect to see drift. And you go, what? The claim that we have Coriolis is a claim that Earth turns underneath stuff that's not attached. Neil deGrasse Tyson describes it as a football seeming to drift as you look at it from the stands because Earth turns underneath, so it curves through the goal. Well, if that's true, then Earth turns underneath the blimp film in the game and the hot air balloon and the aeroplane and you if you jump up and down. But that does not happen. Then we get idiots like Simon Dan telling me, with examples of things not drifting, that my reference frames are ruined because we detail how there is no Coriolis effect to observe on a turning Earth because we don't have a turning Earth turning beneath stuff to give us that effect. So when we show it not happening, they'll tell us how we shouldn't expect to see it happening, even though that's the primary globe claim. The primary globe claim, to reiterate, Earth turns underneath stuff not attached, like footballs, bullets, when you fire them at targets at long distances, right? What's supposed to happen? According to the globe Earth claim, the bullet will take a curved path because Earth will turn under the bullet, which means if it's turning under bullets, it's turning under planes, and it would shorten their flight times. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would only take about an hour and a half rather than about 4.5, 5 hours. Well, does that happen? No. Why? Because Earth isn't turning under the plane for you to look up at it and say, oh, look, it's curving, because I'm turning beneath it. Like a ball curves if you turn beneath it and it's thrown over the top of the roundabout. That doesn't happen. We don't have Coriolis effect. There is no drift. Earth isn't turning underneath anything.
If you were going to detail Coriolis effect, how would you measure it?
You measure the not actual drift by way of you observing it. So first you have to see it actually occurring. Now you can detail mathematically why you see that not actual drift. I.e., if you're going to describe it mathematically as occurring, you just don't understand Coriolis effect. In my example with the ball tossed over the top of a roundabout that's spinning, the ball isn't curving. The ball travels straight and just looks like it curves.
But in the mathematical description, you would need a radius value for that.
Oh, right. Sorry, my being slow and passionate again has caught me out because you're going to need an R value for that. Where do they derive their R value from, John?
I think Brian would like to get this one.
Go ahead, Brian.
Flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris gives them a dual radii.
Or a measurement to a physical geometric spheroid horizon formerly known as curved Earth. Earth curve. That'd be your horizon that we debunked back in 2020, lads. What's that? Refraction? No straight lines ever? Well, you're never going to be getting elevation angle measurements to Polaris, and you haven't got a straight line to a geometric tangent point to claim you've got it blocking things. So game over, globe. Any evidence of the R value, as we're here? Earth radius. Anybody at all?
Well, there is no evidence of a globe.
There's no evidence. But I have an awesome photo that was filmed by Dr. John D. looking onto France. It's wind turbines. It shows angular size change due to perspective, and there is no curve. We're seeing beyond 11 miles.
Shout out to Dr. John D. Excellent stuff. Any scientific
I've
evidence
seen a
of
video.
gravity? Oh, go on.
Sorry, just a second. Just not that it matters anymore, but I'll say it anyway. I seen a video recently. It was a 2-minute video from Heath Carmody, where he literally put his camera into the water. I don't know how he did it, but he put the camera so the lens was partly in the water, looking over a lake. And he was seen, I think it was 9 miles away, from probably about half to 1 inch off the water. And
Hold on a second. We haven't rehearsed this. This isn't going to be some blag to try and sucker them into claiming geometric horizons again, is it, Brian? Because I'm not in on this. I don't know where you're going with this. What's going on?
No, I'm just stating that. I mean, as I said, it's a bit out of date, but I was just stating that. Like Heath Carmody was showing that even at, like, with his lens in the water, he could see across to this shoreline that was 9 miles away. And there was a piece of land jutting out at about 3 miles from that, and the horizon, or that whatever he was seeing, was way past that. So it's like I don't know how they're going. I don't know how they rectify that inside their minds. You know, there should be Earth curve a very short distance, basically, from where his camera lens was, and in their world, and it's not there. And if there was more distance on the lake where he was looking, he probably would have seen further. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, I find it, for me, it's unbelievable that people can continue to believe something that is obviously just not true.
Well, if at 1 foot, your observation height at 1 foot, and your geometric horizon can be no more than 1.2 miles away, what would that be if your observation height is the water?
What, 0?
Basically, yeah. If half your lens is in the water, well, damn, your geometric horizon should be a little closer than 1.2 miles away.
Well, you sat on it. According to them, you sat on it at that point, aren't you?
Basically. But you're still seeing things 9 miles away. Curious.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
As for what it is, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. What is gravity? What is it?
There isn't anything. There's no phenomena observed. There isn't anything to observe, so there is no phenomena of gravity. What is it? Well, nothing. There isn't anything. It only exists in maths. It's just a description of something that doesn't exist.
Well, they say
description.
So again, John?
I was going to say its description is invalid as well because it invokes R value that doesn't exist.
Indeed.
Just a word. It's like abracadabra, right? It only works when they need it to work. It's like a magic trick, right? Oh, I dropped my pen. Gravity. Okay, when something is not doing that, as in, I don't know, I let go of a helium balloon. What is that? Oh, that's not gravity. That's something else. Here we have all types of excuses for why that's not happening.
Yeah, buoyancy.
But I thought this gravity.
Yeah, buoyancy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They say buoyancy, and buoyancy is the gases around the helium balloon forcing the helium balloon up because the gases around it are going down. When in reality, gases are created at ground level and make their way up as they expand in all directions to fill the availability of volume that they have. It's called entropy. Gases don't fall down, go boom boom from the sky where they are not created.
the longest time it was supposed to be mass attracting mass. Has that changed?
107 years ago, it was mass attracting mass. It's still taught to school children to this day, in spite of the fact that the teachers who teach it have to be qualified to the point where they understand implicitly that it's not mass attracting mass. It's the bending of space-time as a result, a claimed result, of the uneven distribution of mass in pseudo-Riemannian four-space Einstein gravity, and that the taught gravity that they're going to go and disseminate to the children is definitely not what gravity is. Big issue, if you ask me. Really, we shouldn't be teaching children stuff that's 107 years out of date and proven incorrect.
Well, it wasn't replaced by anything better, but my point is, what's scientific about it? What have we actually observed? Has anyone observed something bigger attracting something smaller? Is it a natural phenomenon?
No, it wasn't 107 years ago. That's why it was superseded by Einstein's bending of space-time. but there is no phenomena in bending space-time either. Time isn't something that you can bend or dilate. It is not something that is physical. It's not a phenomena. It's not something that can be scientifically validated. It is merely a description in maths of a phenomena that is never observed. There is no gravity, and the assertion that gravity is the downward vector, or bias, at 9.8 meters per second, is to defy the fact that there's things that go up that don't do that, and to try and get around it by saying, well, gases go down, go boom, boom, and that's forcing the other gases to go up. No, they don't. Gases expand in all directions, all vectors. There is no down bias.
Have they attributed a causal cause for time? I mean, is time their causal cause?
Time is an abstract description in and of itself. So no.
No, I know it's not, because it's a convention. You can't show me time in the box. But the point is, have they attributed a causal effect to time? Like time causes something.
Time doesn't cause anything. That's nonsensical.
I know that. No, I know, but that's what they say. When you go there, that's what you have to believe.
Okay, well, you might have to believe that time is the cause of all things if you're a fundamentalist religious zealot who believes he's on a sphere that's been derived from a flat plane, but we're not in that problematic position, are we?
Well, like a famous host says, we got there at the end. Thank you.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Aren't these the same people who... I'm sorry, Brian, go.
No, you go ahead, thank you.
No, I said, aren't these the same people who botched up time?
Botched it? How can you botch it? It's not a real thing.
No, I know. When they attribute something real to something not real. Now, repeat that last question.
Oh, botched. By botched, you mean reified. A reification of time. Yes, indeed.
So, same people got the first one wrong. We have to attribute anything else to these people about that field that is just observing, and it stops there because they can't manipulate anything. So how could it be scientific?
They don't have any science. They just claim science when actually they've got just so stories and pseudoscience to offer. It's a magic trick.
Yeah, they have a phenomenon, and but they wrap a belief around that phenomenon. So they can't even use it as a phenomenon. How do you use it as a phenomenon? If you've already wrapped the belief around that phenomenon, it means that anything you do after that, not that they can do actual hypotheses tests on an hypothesis, because they can't create a hypothesis in the first place, but because they can't manipulate the variable, but they're independent variable. But the thing about it is that they already wrap their belief around what they see. So no matter what happens, they're going to get it wrong. They're doomed to fail, if you know what I mean.
I think their phenomenon, though, they're always going to use a heliocentric model to try to describe the description of that phenomenon within. I don't know if they'll ever get past that step.
Would that be the celestial sphere, John?
Yep.
Where's a Kumu virus?
We'll do the last housekeeping question. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
This is absolutely crazy for anyone to believe you can have any gas pressure of any type without a container. Everybody who buys hairspray, any kind of propane refilling must be done in a tank to create pressure. They die right here when they say the Earth's air is right next to a vacuum and magically it stays confined to a sphere.
But while this magical ball is moving through the galaxy, following the sun at 500,000 miles per hour, going around it at 66,600 miles per hour, while spinning at 17,000 or 1,000 miles per hour at the equator.
Yeah, it all moves in lockstep.
All that's going on.
It all moves in lockstep because it's like the gas is like magnets, one layer to another. They just, even if it's pulled super fast through the galaxy, like the gas is just going to stick to each other like magnets to the Earth.
That's interesting. When my kids were young, I'd go around the turn and make a sharp turn, and I'd look in the rearview mirror and they'd all be going to one side, and they'd say, do it again, do it again. But there, it doesn't go through that, chocolate.
No, just make the car big enough and then go fast enough, and you won't feel it moving at all. That's their logic. It's ridiculous, man.
Can we have some accelerating coffee cups or something at this point?
Only when it's sitting on my desk, though.
Can I have some Dom Petit coffee with that?
Is chocolate that desk?
No, you don't want Dom Petit coffee.
Chocolate, is that desk flat?
Yes, sir, indeed.
Well, that concludes the housekeeping questions. If there's nothing more to speak of on any evidence of gas pressure without a container. Thank you very much. We're only 50 minutes into the live show, and we've done all of the housekeeping questions really concisely and detailed. I'm very happy.
But the thing is with gases, they're free to move like water's free to move. When you got the augment periapsis and periapsis, when they do the elliptical orbit, it spins. And also the wobble effect. The Earth has a wobble. What's holding all this? Everything's, it's free to move. Water is free to move.
A presupposed wobble. A presupposed wobble.
I will let him go.
Yes, presupposition, yes.
Wobble,
Where do we feel
wobble.
it? We don't.
Right.
I mean, it's one heck of a whip right there.
Within the available volume of the container.
So, Armin, why'd you ask why virus isn't here? Was there something going on?
Oh, yeah, well, feeding back to where it all started today, because Virus claimed that you don't need a flat plane to do celestial navigation. And I was just really curious, because before this, he's always been trying to prove how you can do it with a globe. But now he's saying he can do it without a flat plane. So I'm just kind of fascinated how he thinks he can do that.
So that would be without a celestial sphere horizontal plane model and without tangent planes. That's what he's claiming?
Pretty much, yeah.
I think what Owen's highlighting is the fact that the order it comes out of his mouth is to say, I can do it without the standard, normal, using a flat plane way that celestial navigation typically utilises. I can do it in a different way. It's very akin to the standard at the moment where they want to juxtapose this is how we say we can do it. It's like, yeah, but that's just your anti-flat earth claim of how you say you could do it. But how it is done is very well documented in celestial navigation. So when he phrases it, I don't have to use a flat plane, I can do it in an alternative way. It's like, yeah, but the standard's using a flat plane, isn't it? That's why he's phrased it that way. I assume that's what Arwen's driving at in terms of his phraseology, right, Arwen?
Well, yeah, we didn't really get to any actual explanation, surprise, surprise, just quickly moving on when I was trying to make him explain how that would work. But I'm just really curious, since he did say it.
Did he first tell you to ignore all the times you came here fighting for a tangential plane?
Well, I reminded him of that. I did actually remind him about that part, and that's when he moved on, you see.
He was like, don't get hung up on details. I get you.
But the main focus is, if I'm paraphrasing on behalf of Akumu virus, he being analogous and representative to all anti-flat earthers, aka ballers, people who want to defend against the flat earth claim that you require a flat plane to do celestial navigation. Akumu virus, don't have to use the flat plane that celestial navigation always uses. That's how it works. So yeah, they have a claim now in terms of how they say it could work if we take what they say is done at face value. And occasionally they might find on page 57 of a 57-page document on celestial navigation a version that disclaims how you could transpose all of this onto a sphere, but nobody ever does it and it's far too complicated and not required. And they might take that as their citation. And then when you go to the first page in the introduction and you show them a triangle, suddenly they crap their pants.
I remember having a back and forth with Virus where he admitted that the bubble sextant creates a flat plane at the eye line, horizontal, straight all the way to the GP. And that's why you're able to take the elevation angle and minus it from 90. So that would be a right angle triangle from the eye line all the way to GP of the sun or star. It could be thousands of miles. That's pretty flat if you believe you live on the curved
exactly.
surface.
I mean, he's basically paralleling and describing how you do it on a flat plane, and he's describing it that way also. Hence his need to say, I don't have to do it in the way it's done on Celestial Navigation's books. I can do it this other way. That's just our frivolous nobody claim from people like Roofy or Protothad or Virus. You could do it that way, could you? No, you'd need to first measure elevation angles, and you can't do those off a curved surface. So no matter what you say, as Toon found out 78 times we're up to now, by the way, if anyone's keeping count, you can't first measure an angle if the surface is curved. No, you need a flat baseline. Game over.
Where is Virus? He didn't want to come and defend this crap while we're live? Is he waiting for the after show or something?
Nothing to defend. We're just discussing the interesting phraseology of I don't have to use a flat Earth. I mean, I can do it in this random other way that us Globers say it could work when we completely avoid the fact that we measure an angle off a flat plane first. Then I say it could work if I ignore that. I mean, black market elevation angle measurements are available. Become a Patreon today. Just hit me up on the download. Say, hey, man, I need a flat Earth angle. You know, I'm going to be using it for a sphere, but just don't tell anyone.
Well, the first bubbles sextant, Gago Coutinho, put 2 spirit levels, one vertical, one horizontal, so he can get a true right angle out of it.
Shh, don't mention 90.
I can't help it, Mitchell, because, see, no matter what they say, they have to subtract the elevation angle from 90, and the minute they say from 90, it's over for them, because 90 is a perpendicular, 2 straight lines.
You are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
The quotes that say, you're making a right angle triangle between you, the GP, and the celestial body. That's it. If we said, stop playing little boy, this court is for the grown folks, why don't you just go home? Like, we'd all be bored at that point. So I don't
feel
know.
that. I feel that.
Well, you might feel that.
We got to give them something to do, right?
Well, we feel that, but we got a whole world to reach that isn't these frontline zombies that take bullets in their head and respawn again.
Brains.
That's what I'm saying. Let's speak to them. So there's this guy. I'm gonna go ahead and say, oh man, he's rudely obnoxious. But I do appreciate the video you did, because it's exactly of what I'm planning on doing. And his channel goes by the name of Flat Earth Boxer. And in this one particular video, he goes to speak to a cosmologist who claimed to do experiments on gravity. And he asked him, he says, I've been asking these other professors these 2 questions, and they referred me to you, him being the cosmologist. So he asked him, he said, gravity, is there any experiment that you can think of? And he said, yeah, looking at the planetary bodies. And he's like, no, do you experimentally, like independent variable? He's like, you can drop something. He's like, yeah, effects distinct from density. Do you have any experimentation? And he's like, I can't give you any more than I've already told you. He's like, okay, that's fine. How do you have gas pressure without a container? As you know, space is second law of thermodynamics violation. And he's like, that's a good question. He's like, okay, say if I put air in a box in a vacuum and I poked a hole in it. He's like, no, I understand. Yes, I understand what you're saying. It's going to fill the available space. Yes. He's like, okay, so then why doesn't the air on Earth leave into the adjacent vacuum? And he's like, no, because of the gravity. He's like, okay, but I put the box on the Earth and I poke a hole in the gas goes everywhere. And he's like, yeah, I don't. That's all the time we have for today, folks. I was like, yo,
that's fantastic.
Well, he sounds like us, right?
Was that,
So that was, explain it.
So that was recorded then. So presumably that can be trimmed out.
Yes, it could. Yes, I'll post it in Master B in a second.
That's great. Eli.
Oh, we've got. Oh, if we can play that now. Oh, yes, please.
Okay, yeah. Give me a second. I'll find it.
Oh, what a great catch. Oh, how beautifully delicious. Very much like the
this
Nathan
is why
Thompson
when people
one,
want
right?
to know why I laugh, this is why I laugh.
Very similar to Nathan Thompson's interaction with, who was it? Danny Faulkner?
Danny Faulkner.
Yeah, very similar. Similar outcome too. Very good. Love it.
Oh, you mean the guy that's got all the answers? You don't have the answers. I have the answers.
Agile gas pressure without a container. Crickets.
Crickets.
What about that lady who said, well, we just changed the model?
Oh, that was Wakey's interviewee.
Astrophysicist lady. Yep. Miss Exoplanet Astrophysicist lady. I don't remember her name. I should. just so I can give her proper credit.
So it's there in Master B, and the timestamp, you can start it at, let's say 7 minutes.
Okay, talk amongst yourselves just while I get that lined up. I'm just doing something else at this second, so I'll just finish off that, and then I will get it squared away after the next.
This is when all the globe heads mute and deafen. They don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear one of their peoples be like, oh, that's all the time we have, guys. Sorry. Wow.
All the gas is out of the room at this point. We need to finish the show.
Well, to be fair, that's the best possible way to have rounded that out because, number one, it makes the point that's being asked about quite clear in terms of the response that it's resulted in. But that's a win-win because the guy's asking the question by, or at least I read between the lines based on the paraphrasing we got from Eli, didn't sound like he was there to be disrespectful. He was just putting the questions to somebody that might have answers. And did he get them? No. And at the point that was concluded, he ended the show. Well, that's just beautiful, right? It rounds it out nicely. I mean, yeah, he could have spent another 10 minutes arguing back and forth and going, gravity. Well, no, but what about the box I poke a hole in? Well, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I've covered that in as much as possible. And, you could go round and round in circles, but instead, wouldn't it be just better for both parties to, have that devastating point round the show out with? I think so.
I think that's a great example just to use, right? Because I think I've heard Mark Sargent use something very similar to that. Like take a room and just empty it out and put a hole in the room, and every normie that's asked this question always has the same response. Yeah,
it's the way.
Go ahead.
It's the way he does it because the guy has no logical way out. Because when he mentions the air, he's like the air doesn't have enough gravity. He's like, but the Earth supposedly does. And he's like, I'm like, yeah.
But he's already at that stage. By what you've described, he's already taken apart gravity, right? He's already self undone at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. It was very succinct, very short, and very sweet, and not disrespectful at all.
Well, that part of the Earth where the air doesn't have enough gravity, is that where the bulge is?
What bulge?
That's what I'm saying. We can make stuff up too, right?
Yes, indeed. But we don't have to. That's the beautiful part.
No, but we would be better at it. I mean, as much as we've learned listening to these nutcases come here, we could go out there and just say what they say to normal people, and normal people would say we were nutcases.
Not necessarily. I mean, there are times I've said things to normal people, like normies, who, you know, I tell them what the response is for the people we debate, like the anti-flat earthers and the globers that can't stand us. And some of those things they'll say, nah, people aren't saying that. That's not one of the reasons. That's not an excuse. Perfect example. Why does a helium balloon go up? Oh, because the air around it is being forced down, forcing that balloon up. And it's like, when I've told people that that's a response, they look at me like, nah, people don't say that to you.
Let me try.
I'm like, you have no idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me try one. Hey, Chocolate, see that coffee cup right there? That right now is moving. It's accelerating. I know you can't see it, but this is what science has taught us. So when you go to grab it, make sure you anticipate where it's going to be, okay? Because of refraction, it's not exactly where it's at, and it's moving. So you got an accelerated coffee drink right there.
What's the timestamp on this video, Eli?
7 minutes.
Wow, that's
roughly.
good.
Okay.
A little after 7 minutes. About 7 minutes.
Mr. Vachaspati, or Dr. Yes. Vachaspati, he's recommended. So I've come to 2 or 3 of these cosmology colloquiums, and he's I've asked these 2 questions, and he's recommended that I ask the cosmologist these questions because the physicist prior could not answer them. Okay. The first question is, and this is perfect because you do test of gravity. Yeah. What experiment have you come up with that, or have you discovered or seen that evidences the existence of a force called gravity, which as distinct from the effects of density and buoyancy in a medium?
What evidence there is for gravity?
In the experimental. As distinct from the effects of density and buoyancy in a medium.
The fact that planets move around, lots of evidence.
So I meant experimental evidence. So
that's experiment.
What's the independent variable in that experiment?
Okay, I guess you could look at different samples. I mean, you can drop things in the vacuum.
So things are more dense than zero. I mean, so a vacuum there's a zero medium, so everything's equally more dense.
You can drop objects. You just take a room, evacuate the air, and drop things, and then they all fall the same.
Equally more dense than nothing, right? They're both equally. So that's distinct from the effects of density and buoyancy.
Yeah.
So gravity is a force that's it has nothing to do with density and buoyancy, right? It exists there whether or not.
Yes,
right. So when things fall in a medium, it's because they're equally more dense than nothing. In a vacuum, they're equally more dense than nothing. That's why they fall at the same rate. So the question is more as distinct from the effects of density and buoyancy.
Yeah.
If the answer, if no, that's fine too.
I'm not sure I can add more than I said.
Then the second question is, so your cosmology depends upon, so the second law of thermodynamics stipulates that you can't have a gas pressure system in the midst of a vacuum. Like a high pressure always goes to low pressure.
Yes, that's true.
So has it been brought up within the field of cosmology that the heliocentric cosmology depends upon a violation of the second law of thermodynamics?
What is a heliocentric?
The heliocentric model being
around the Earth.
Heliocentric means, or let's say the cosmological model assumed within the parameters of the general relativity theory, whatever you decide is the center of the universe. But normally you have gas-composed stars in the middle of a vacuum. So
yes, you're right. So if you have gas, it would expand into the vacuum. Absolutely.
So do you know of any demonstrations of gas pressure in the middle of a vacuum without a solid barrier between the two?
No.
So would it be true to say that the cosmological model that underpins the assumptions of the popular cosmology, whatever it is, depends upon a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, which is not demonstrable?
Because there is no, it's not like we're putting, first, the universe doesn't have a center.
Well, yeah, sure. Whether center or not.
And it's uniformly filled with radiation. So it's already equilibrated, so the gas has distributed itself throughout all of the volume of the universe.
Okay, so is that possible to demonstrate, let's say, gas pressure adjacent to a vacuum without a barrier between the two? Is that demonstrable in any way?
I'm not sure.
Let's say I have a pressurized shoebox inside of a vacuum. I poke a hole inside that shoebox. Is there any way to demonstrate air not going into the vacuum and staying inside the box, as opposed to?
I don't think so. As you said, I think you're absolutely right. If you poke a hole, it will go out. I know. I can't think of, unless you just put the shoe inside a very dense, much denser gas or something like that, or put it inside like water or something. I don't know.
So it's true to say you can't have gas pressure in the midst of a vacuum without a solid container?
Yes.
Okay, so how is it the case that we have atmosphere on Earth without a solid container?
Because it's attracted to the Earth.
Via gravity, right?
The gravity.
But why doesn't gravity hold air in the shoebox?
Because the shoe doesn't have enough gravity.
The Earth presumably does.
Earth has a lot of gravity.
The Earth is inside.
And the shoe doesn't.
So why doesn't Earth's gravity hold the air inside the box?
Because, sorry.
Why doesn't Earth's gravity hold the air inside of the shoebox, which is in the midst of a vacuum?
Because the gas has pressure. So it has pressure and it just
goes out into the vacuum.
Sorry,
I'm just saying.
I have people waiting and I need to go.
Got it. All right.
Question: you think supermassive black?
Wow.
That is epic.
That was very good.
That was really good. The only thing that he could have done better on, because I don't know who it is, but whoever that was did fantastically well. There was one point when the guy asserted, well, because things go down, and whoever was, putting the questions to him really should have turned around and gone, what, like gases do? Because gases don't go down. But he seemed to want to work within maybe he's got an incoherent dielectric acceleration in the back of his mind, but it seemed like he shied away from just saying, when he pointed out, the astrophysicist, that things go down. No, they don't. Gases expand in all directions. But he didn't say that. But that was the only thing I could critique him on. Literally the only thing.
Well, there'd be a lot of questions you'd want to ask there. Under those same circumstances, you want to say, hang on a second, gravity is not a force according to the Einstein's relativity model. So you could, and you would want to say to him, hang on a second, gases don't go down, they expand to fill the available volume. That's what gases do. It's like, what? So you could go in a couple of different directions with it, but I think the fact that he kind of stuck, he just allowed whatever the guy said, and he kind of stayed on the tracks, and he got to his destination, which was the guy having to go, I'm out of here.
No, he did really well, because if you kind of too disagreeable at the point where somebody says, well, things go down, you kind of want to make it seem like you agree. So maybe he did do it in a way that couldn't have been bettered. He got to the point, he got to the end, the guy made his concessions, he got more out of him than we ever get out of any anti-flat earther ever. So who was that? Props to whoever it was. Who was the guy asking the questions?
Eli, who was that?
Oh, if you guys can hear me, his name is Young Moses. That's what he calls himself. His channel is Flat Earth Boxer. So,
Flat Earth Boxer YouTube channel. Massive shout out to you. That was absolutely superb. Beautifully executed.
And you know what? I like that he
that's even
a cosmologist.
Okay,
but, I like that he answered in the way that he did, because instead of acknowledging that down is a thing that has anything to do with mass attracting mass, he's like, well, I understand. You're welcome, sir. Yes. He says, I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about effects distinct from density. So he kind of is saying, but what about the force? Is that detectable experimentally in any way? Sidestepping people's belief that, things fall down. He's like, no, that's not what I'm asking about. I'm not asking about density.
What I got at... Go on, Chop it.
I was going to say the guy kind of put himself in that box, pun intended, right? Because when he described the air coming out of the box in a vacuum, what did he use to say? Well, what would prove that that's not happening? What was his response? Oh, just put more dense gas in the vacuum.
No, a more dense shoe. Just why would it be a shoe? I mean, I know he said shoebox. He just means box, right? But suddenly it's started to be talked about in terms of the shoes, right? Which is just funny because we have Brenda talking about phenomena and shoes. Just classic that it would be a shoe.
What was
go ahead,
okay, yeah. What was great about it is that he didn't sound the alarms. He was patient. He did it in such a way where it's like fishing. You wait until the hook is really in the mouth of the fish, and that's what he did. So the guy wasn't alerted at first. So what he did was ask these questions, and then the guy took the hook, chewing on it, it set, and then when at the end, when he actually put it to him, like the dichotomy of it, well, how can that be if this is this? And you already said that. It was too late now. He's already spoken. He knows he's got to get out of there. He's stuck. And there was just brilliant patience on this guy. And what it shows is that these people with the degrees are just parroting stuff. They don't know.
Well, and I also like that he stayed, even though obviously it's something we would probably just destroy in a second, that he stayed with gravity being a force, because even with gravity being a force, he debunked himself. So I think that was great, personally.
What I liked was that.
Go on.
Sorry, what I liked was the fact that the gas wasn't going down when it was in the shoebox with the hole in it. It was going out to fill the available volume. It wasn't going down then. Selective going down.
Because it doesn't. Like I said, that was my only critique. If he'd have just said that in the first instance, well, when you say things go down, gases don't do that. And then it would have moved on a bit more swiftly when he had to make those examples twice thereafter, which is fairly typical, even from what we do see. So far, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the highest possible acclaim that you could reach, right, from us?
I'd say so, yes. Yeah.
What was his name again? I know it's Flat Earth Boxer YouTube channel.
I got to say,
Young Moses, that's what he calls himself.
Young Moses. Oh, props. Go ahead, Adam.
I just caught the end of that, but that sounded a little bit like the perfect setup and then knockout blow.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. I'm on his YouTube now. He's got a heap of videos. He's almost up to 3,000 subs. He deserves it.
He does. Yeah. Go on, Adam.
No, just respect. It was very well controlled. Didn't unload too early. Didn't want to confuse him with facts, wanting to confirm the facts, and then just asked him to stand by his own facts that he's just been saying, hasn't he? And beautiful stuff to the point that I was giggling when I've got to go. Yeah, fantastic setup, and then, like I say, knockout blow at the end. Beautiful.
I'm paying attention, and I'm on one of the premiering streams. I will put his link to his channel so you can go and check him out and subscribe today. Brilliant. I couldn't agree more, Adam. Absolutely fantastic.
I don't think Adam was finished, Nathan.
Can I say something real fast?
Yes, please. Go ahead, John MK Ultraviolet.
Thanks. I just wanted to mention something since the other day you guys were talking about Flat Earth Dave and like the ways he can improve his thing. And I noticed one thing that Flat Earthers say a lot, that it's a false dichotomy that's being created, and it's really hurting Flat Earth, because people ask the reasons. What is the reason for the lie? And that's a big question with a lot of answers. But one of the main reasons people say is that they want to hide God. They want to hide us from God. Hide God from us. And I don't think. And what happened? That's the false dichotomy. So people automatically think if you look at the flat Earth, then you have to believe in the Bible or something like that, and that draws people away from it. So what I was going to do is instead of saying, because not everybody believes the Bible, so but they can all understand geometry. So the real reason for the globe lie is to hide the ancient past. They don't want us to know about the ancient past of all the advanced technologies and advanced buildings and all the stuff that we had a whole different world before, and it's gone now, and they don't want us to know about that world. So they made the globe lie because.
Yeah, maybe.
I have an alternative,
Hold on, Arwin.
explanation.
Hold on before this descends.
If you want to hear
Back
about
then,
it.
Just one second.
No, it's
Hello.
good.
Oh, God, is it going to be 25 minutes of me trying to get control back of my own show? Yes, it's probably going to be that way, isn't it? Well, everyone keeps talking, even though I'm still in the same breath. Yeah, that means shut up. No, not necessarily. You can't divine the motivations of those who've deceived us. You can only point out the deception and how the deceived have deceived you. That's it. You can't say what it means. You can't say it's what they're hiding.
But that's what they do. That's what they do. They say they know, but they don't want us to know about the ancient technology. That whole world is gone, and they don't want us to know about how the torus works, because if we know about that, we know about free energy, and we'll bring everything back the way it was. So to hide
you're
that,
doing the same thing.
You don't want to.
You're doing the same thing as what you're giving out of it. Hang on, sorry.
Can I insert something,
Hold on,
please?
hold on,
One
Brian.
second, Arwin.
Hold on. Arwin, then Brian. Then, my friend, you will get to respond, John. I promise.
Thank you. Thank
Eli
you.
in the queue. Sorry. Thank you.
And Eli, after John. Go ahead. Arwin, then
was
John,
before that.
then... Just get some control. For bloody hell's sake, Arwin, just control yourself. Arwin, then Brian, then John, the guy who's being responsible for the two comments he'll then have to deal with, then Eli. Go ahead, Arwin.
Right. So, yeah, there is an argument to be made that the ball Earth is effectively a distraction, hiding things from us about our past, how things really developed, sure. But a much more direct, more pragmatic thing, why they want to hold on to it, in my opinion, is because it gives them the ultimate reified storytelling medium. They got all this space they can talk about. Nobody can go there. So they have to just trust it. And then, yeah, people become dependent upon the storytelling tradition that heliocentrism really provides. All this space, that things can be said about it, and people can't personally test it. So they become dependent on the storytellers. I think that's the main trick that forces them to keep it in place, because they need that virtual space to keep control over the people now, right?
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I would say to John, the lad that was asking the questions there, that you're making the same mistake that you're giving out of it. You're giving a reason for something that you don't know the reason for. It's like, who cares why they did it? All we know is that they did it. We just point out the lie, we point out where it's incorrect, we point out where there was dishonesty used or whatever. That's all we have to do. You don't have to give them a reason, because you don't know. I don't know. I don't know why they did it. All I know is that it happened, that we were told we were on a globe, and we've shown that we're not. And that's all that matters. Because if you go down...
I agree. We shouldn't try to make up a reason. But they always do, though. And they give them a dumb reason that makes them think, oh, you're trying to make me a Bible believer. Which isn't the... I'm not saying that that's why they... But people take it that way.
You are, because you alluded
take it that way, and it throws them off.
Okay, you alluded to a false dichotomy, and that's what... Hold on one second. You alluded to a false dichotomy, and that is the false dichotomy. So the need for you to divine their motivation so that can be challenged, when that isn't necessary. Now, don't get me wrong, John, if we were on a personal call together, and I do this with people on the panel often, speculate, it just leaves you vulnerable. That's why you're getting, not pulled down for it, but by the same token, we're just trying to highlight... My God. We're just trying to highlight how it leaves you vulnerable. That's all.
Right. Don't you think that my reason's a little bit more...
Before you respond again... Before you respond
Go
again...
ahead.
Go ahead, Eli.
So okay, your feelings and your beliefs and your knowledge and what you know, everything you know, like, that's all fine. But when you try to put it into an argument for everyone else to digest, you have to be careful of how you put forth the argument. So the only thing I focused on you saying, so that I can actually address what I believe is the issue, is that you've detailed, or you've said there was a false dichotomy and didn't detail the false dichotomy. So your premise, as far as how you're arguing for it, is fallacious right here. You haven't actually characterized the false dichotomy. All you've done is actually do the fallacy yourself, because actually what you're trying to describe is the ontological primitives being either nature was created or it created itself. That's an actual dichotomy. So this is what people are trying to argue, but it's not a false dichotomy, it's an actual dichotomy. So your premise is false. And this is why anything after that is being picked apart. It's because it's your argumentation is fallacious.
That was the point I wanted to take.
Hold on, Adam. Hold on. Just let John respond, and then Adam next. Go ahead, John.
What I'm trying to say is what the other guy was saying. More like, let's not try to speculate. But people always do. They always say, "Oh, it's because they're trying to hide God." So what that does to a normie, it automatically makes them feel like they're being put in a corner where you're going to have to believe in the Bible if you keep listening to me. And that's not what they want to hear. And of course, some people think that's okay. But if we want to turn on as many people as possible to the truth of flat Earth, we don't want to push away any groups. And if you're like in a group already that feels a certain way about the Bible, like, why push them away? Just tell them that the ancient past is not what we've been told. And
fair enough.
By keeping
I get you. Okay, hold on, everyone, hold on. Yes, okay, I understand your point, and I see.
Or maybe not say nothing. Maybe not say nothing at all. But not always try to push them in the direction of the Bible.
No, I understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate your sentiment. And when it's discussed here on specific Ballbuster shows, we do take people who are listening through the detail of the ontological primitives for our justification, for the reasoning behind explaining that. Now, when it's just somebody who comes along and says, they're hiding God, you're saying the implications are, you need to pay attention to me, I'm a Bible basher, and that might not look good. And potentially, for the most part, I agree with you. It needs far more contextualization that doesn't necessarily come from whoever purveys that, and it's that annoys you. Yeah, I get it. Go ahead, Adam.
Cool. I'm hearing two things. The first is, like you say, you can't speak to motivation. If I'm recognizing the point, you don't want to go fundy. This isn't a Christian thing, first and foremost. I'd use the term creator. We don't have to insist on any one particular religion, doctrine, whatever. And I'd make that distinction. But I suppose if you are just trying to break the ice, then ancient technology, things like that, which ultimately do lead to hiding a creator. If you look at the glorious past we had, we're told, it's the ascent of man. It's quite obviously the reverse. So other than speaking to motivation, I don't think what you're saying is a bad thing and a good way of actually approaching newbies, particularly unreligious ones, atheists. But
I don't know, though.
Objection.
The spiritual
Objection.
calling it a spiritual path.
I'll win first. Go ahead, then John.
Right. So yeah, calling it a spiritual path might just have just the same amount of effect, right, on another group, right? If you're gonna not deny Christian ways of explaining it, then there may be a whole bunch of Christians out there which are not necessarily annoying type of Christians that are going to object to that. So the vernacular that you're going to use to explain what is roughly happening is always going to be have a polarizing effect on different groups out there. You can't prevent that.
You could be talking to a Muslim for a start, so then that scripture in of itself is irrelevant. You can't master all scripture. So say a much better way of doing it is to stay out of the field of discussing the particular religion, but just to refer to it as a creator. I think that's sufficient until you're getting into deep stuff. But I don't think you have to be defensive of the Bible.
Hold on, John. You can go next. Go ahead, Adam. Just round out your point.
But I don't think you have to either be defensive or refuse to use the Bible. But you sound like you're struggling to do it because it makes you sound like a fundy Christian. Well, that needs contextualizing for the person that's listening. So educating the listener is part of the skill, isn't it? Hence what was demonstrated so well by that previous caller, how you handle the
Okay, just let him respond. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the Bible. It's not me. It's the normies that have been programmed to have a problem with it. And also, there is a problem with even just also to say the Earth is flat. So that means there has to be a creator is a false statement because we don't know what created this place. And it doesn't have to be a creator like the one stated in any holy book. It could be something else completely different. Like, you know, a lot of these buildings, a lot of these mountains were built. They used to be mountains. They used to be buildings. So what I'm saying is maybe we're the creator. The creator is in us or whatever. But to try to pigeonhole people and tell them there is a creator. Now you're going to believe in the Bible because the earth is flat. That's ridiculous.
Hold on, everyone, just 1 second. Hold on, everyone, just 1 sec. Just 1 sec. Hello. 5 people all at once. Hello. Just 1 sec. Just want to respond to one of the comments you just made. So you said it's a false statement when you could say because Earth's flat, there's a creator. It's not a false statement. It's a non sequitur statement. Because the two aren't necessarily tied unless you take 2 or 3 steps to show how they're tied, which is why lots have said that you need to give a bit more meat to that bone if you make it as a statement. And if you just make it as that statement, which many do, it becomes frustrating and off-putting to a potential newbie, I think is your point. Adam, I heard first. Go ahead, Adam.
Within that response there, you're making apologetics for referring to the word creator, which is demonstrable. But you're also making some very outlandish claims in terms of mountains being buildings. I assume this is mud flood stuff. They're not proven. They're great conjecture. Okay, but for me, and I know a fair bit about it, we're all good friends with Martin Leakey here, you know, so that would be a topic I would be avoiding to bring up as any kind of evidence. Yeah, grand buildings not being able to be produced by peasants. They're things that are worthy of focus on and demonstrable. Yeah, they don't fit within the timeline, but to claim that this used to be and this used to be, and I've seen the pictures, that to me is putting you in a weak position.
I've been studying When the Buildings Cried for the last 5 years, When the Buildings Cried, the YouTube channel, so I'm pretty sure about what I'm saying about the mountains being, they used to be buildings.
That's my
I'm pretty sure.
That's fine. I think Adam's trying to point out that it's non sequitur in the same way that without any justifiable link between the two subject matters, God and flat Earth, is non sequitur, unless you go to some effort to actually link the two.
Right. It's just kind of like I don't want to off-put people and throw them off by making it feel like it's a religion thing. It's more just like a truth, you know. And you can deal with it however you feel like it. If you feel that a creator created it, cool. If you want to take your time and come to that conclusion, cool. But, you know, it's kind of like we got to take it slow because a lot of these people, all they know, they don't have any spiritual concepts in their head at all. So when you throw that out, they've been programmed to have a repulsion, like an aversion to it. And that's what keeps them away from flat Earth.
I think we all got that.
I would say the dangerous part is trying to inject the reasoning into somebody else. They have to come to that conclusion themselves. And even if they don't come to the conclusion of that question, which is why would they lie, right? Well, that's the problem, right? Because not one of us can say exactly why they would lie. This is why me and Eli have a song with a bunch of other flat earthers that's called "Why Would They Lie?"
It's a great song, by the way.
This is what I wanted to object on. This is what I wanted to object on.
Go ahead, man.
This is right. You're putting in a false dichotomy. You're right. It is a false dichotomy. It is not truth or lies. That is a false dichotomy. The true dichotomy is true or false. You don't answer papers, true or lies. So you're automatically ascribing intent when you say it's a lie, and that's a false dichotomy.
Exactly, and that's the reason the song was named "Why Would They Lie?" Because that's a question we get a lot of times, even on 24/7, from normies who are just coming into this, and they start wilding out, just spazzing out, saying, "Well, why would they lie? Why would they lie?" Well, we could sit here for 1,000 years trying to come up with every single reason why they would. Well, what John said is true. We don't have to concentrate on the why. We have to concentrate on the what. Let's figure out if they're lying first, and then we can proceed from there. Not
well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a lie. You can be wrong without lying.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a false dichotomy. I don't know how it even progressed.
Hold on.
Eli in the queue, sorry.
Eli in the queue.
Yeah, I won't be
Brian,
long
go
here. Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Yeah, it's very simple. When that question comes up, because this is what we're having this topic about, Why would they lie? Just be honest. You don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. If you start making stuff up and moving along with speculation and conjecture, you're no different than an astrophysicist who, when he's asked a question or she's asked a question, comes up with some nonsense theory that they have no support for. True. You know what I mean? Just say, I don't know. That's the honest answer. And people can take it or leave it. But if they know they're going to get honesty out of you, then even if they don't like it that day, they will come back. Because they'll go, that person did not mess me around, did not give me dreams or fantasies. They just was honest. They don't know, and they were just honest about it.
Okay, just before we go to Eli. Hold on, Owen. You're next after Eli. Before we go to Eli, though, I want to stress what John said. The other John, not the one on Discord. Our John. In terms of it being a false dichotomy, it's stacking up true, i.e. this is correct, versus false, not true versus lie. So it's not, we show it to be incorrect, hold on, well, you haven't balanced the equation because you've got to divine their motivation now. No. What they claim is, here's an angle measurement and I bend the angle I've measured into a sphere. That's the facts of the matter. Not, well, as a response we need to deal with, but why would they take an angle measurement off a flat plane and turn it into a spherical surface? I don't know why, and it doesn't matter. I can just show how they've done it, and the why isn't relevant. Just true versus false, not true versus lie.
Thank you. That's the problem with this entire conversation.
Okay, Eli, go ahead.
Man, I was trying super hard to remember what it was, and I forgot. I was waiting for like 5-10 minutes.
That's all right. Arwin, go ahead.
Right. So yeah, I wanted to address that. We can't know why they lied. Well, on an individual basis, that's incredibly difficult. Like, people involved in this belief have their own reasons, their own perspective on things, their own range of what they know and what they don't know, what they don't want to know. But universally, you can derive patterns as to why would somebody lie. There's reasons why people lie, pragmatic reasons, short-term pragmatism, right? But yeah, why do you lie? Because control. If you're the one in the knowledge of the information, or at least your subject is not in the knowledge of the information, then you may attain a position where you can dictate their reality and thereby steer their actions outside of their own knowing, right? That's the system that's keeping it in place. It almost has to be, whether the people doing it know what the truth is or not.
Well, that's the thing, though. When you put it in context of a lie, you've already begged the question of that. So we don't know if they're lying or if they're just wrong.
Yeah,
I remember the mud flood stuff, right? So now, if you say something like the mountains are buildings, that's a claim that if somebody pushes you on, it's going to be probably hard to impossible to defend, because all you're going to say is, I've been watching this person for 5 years and this guy has unloaded a whole bunch of information about it. Yeah, well, ultimately you've been told something, but where's the actual evidence for, or the justification for this belief? But what you can do, because I actually watched John Levy, and he's what he's done that you can do is utilize pictures from accredited sources. And
that's what I do.
Within their website, within their amount of photos or pictures, within their library, you can take 2 photos from the same period and show how these can't obviously be photos of this place where they've built this structure, because this supposed picture right here is in direct contradiction of that. Where they'll have like a tower in one and no tower in another one, therefore admitting that this is obviously an illustration, not a photo. Those are the kinds of things that you can.
Hold on, he's trying to respond to you, Eli.
What's the problem?
Just 1 sec, Eli. Just say that again, John, from Discord.
Would you like me to put a few pictures up in the live feed? If it lets me, I don't know if it'll let me, but I can put some pictures of half melted buildings that are half.
No,
mountains
I think you missed my entire point. I'm sorry, but don't worry about it.
What do you mean? You said to use pictures. I use pictures to prove it. Yes.
No, my point wasn't using pictures to support a claim that you're trying to make. I'm talking about a claim that's made from a source, utilizing that source, putting two pictures from that same source side by side from the same time period to show that they cannot be pictures because there would be things in the frame that were impossibly different. That's the point that I'm making.
Well, what I do is I show them pictures of temples that are half mountain, half temple. Why is the half of it a mountain and then it turns into because it's half melted? When you put extreme heat onto cement or concrete, it turns to what looks like a rock. So it turns into like lava, then it hardens back up, and then it looks like a rock. So that's what all the rocks are. But I can show you some pictures. It's amazing. It's the biggest discovery. To me, it's bigger than flat Earth. This.
1 second, son. I may or may not be interested in what you have to share. However, you've missed the entire purpose why I've spoken to you just now. Like I've tried to make a point to you, and you've missed it in lieu of you trying to get your point across, which I've understood.
I guess I'm not that intelligent.
No, man, it's not that. I'm just all right. Anyway, it's not that. I'm not saying it's not that you're not intelligent. It's that I understand that you have something that is interesting that people should see. I was just trying to make a point, non sequitur to that, and I was hoping that you would get it.
Matt,
well,
there's a difference between debunking. There's a difference between debunking a positive claim and making a positive claim. So be careful.
I'll put some pictures up, and then you guys can check out when the buildings cried. The YouTube channel. Really look at it and see that there's definite proof. Just like there's proof of flat Earth, you cannot deny that mountain right there used to be a temple because half of it's still there. Not all of them got completely destroyed. So it's amazing.
Can I ask you a question?
That's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. I just wanted to say that be careful in the way that they make this kind of like back people into a corner and they get scared, and that's why they get turned off to flat Earth.
May I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can what you say happen on the flat Earth or only on the globe Earth?
The whole plane got flooded and destroyed. It used to be completely different.
Excuse me, answer my question. We're talking about why are they lying about a globe Earth versus a flat Earth. And you didn't like the fact that a lot of people attribute that to God. So my question to you is, what you say is happening, the lie, can that lie work on the globe Earth only, or does it also work on the flat Earth? Your buildings.
Oh, I don't believe in the globe. I know this. We live in a pan. The pan got flooded and destroyed.
Your buildings that you want to attest were half mountains, half buildings. Does that only happen on the flat Earth, or could that happen on the globe Earth as well?
And some of them are underwater. But yeah, it happened on the plane. It happened on the plane that we live in. We live in a plane.
Question.
We live in a plane. It happened here. It happened here in the plane that we live in. That's my answer.
Yeah, I know, but you're saying that the lie is to cover that. And I'm asking you, how can you say that when it can happen on either a globe Earth or a flat Earth? It has nothing to do with what Earth is. Your situation with mountains and buildings can happen on either or.
Well, they want to take us away from the whole Tartaria, the advanced technology, because that shows that the beginnings of the origins of mankind are not from a big bang, and we're not,
Okay, let's go on. Okay, let's go on. So I, as a Christian who read in Genesis, God created the heavens and the earth, I say God, and you say Tartarian because you're not a Christian. Why don't we just leave it right there? Because it's going to be based on the individual who he wants to give credit to his existence to. But to say they're lying,
I'm not saying anything that you're saying. That's like a straw man to me. Look, you can be a Christian if you want. All I'm saying is that Tartaria existed. There was an advanced civilization. It doesn't talk about it in the Bible. It does a little bit. It talks about the giants and the flood. It leaves a lot out, and that's fine because the people can't handle that. But the point being that
you're a spokesman for all people. There is other holy text for all people. When I talk, hang on, hold on. I just started talking to you, and you're not even answering my questions. When I talk to a person who's not a Christian, they know I am, and they know I'm going to credit God, and I don't force God on them. They say, "Wow, you've shown the lie." I say, "Now I'm not like you, 10th man. I'm not a Christian, so." But thank you for showing me the lie. Why are you saying it's a bad thing for each individual to give a reason as to what the lie is about when, as John said, it's about true and falsehood?
Well, because everybody's at different levels with their spirituality. So if a person is at a level where
Thank you very much.
They're not ready. Oh, thank you. You're interrupting me. When they're not ready to handle the Bible, perhaps, maybe it's just not for them, then you're going to turn them off the flat earth.
Maybe you're not ready to handle the Bible. Maybe you're not ready to handle the Bible. How do you speak for others? When I've talked to people,
I read the whole New Testament in 1999, so I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, you get too hung up on the Bible, man. It's not about the Bible.
See what I'm saying? See, you're doing exactly what Brian said. You're saying others are doing.
Bringing as many people as possible to the flat earth truth, and that's all I'm talking about. So make it universal.
Yeah, a lot of people are actually Christians, so your argument doesn't hold ground.
Adam, you there?
Yeah,
hold on. Adam had a point to add at that juncture. Thank you, Arwin. You still there? No, he's not. What about Muslims? Equally, by the same token, just to side with the John from the Discord server, we could equally argue that there's plenty of Muslims out there that we could be appealing to on the same level. But when we do it and put it in that context, it suddenly makes his point more valid when you, as we've already done, go through the fact that there's a big non sequitur when you hold the two up next to each other. That would be flat earth and a route to God, regardless of how truthful or correct it may be. That's all I'm trying to reiterate. That was Adam's point, by the way. Just want to give him credit.
Hang on. Let me finish what I'm saying. Flat Earth is not a route to God. My goodness. The Muslims believe in Genesis, so they actually would agree with me because they accept the writings of Moses. That's not the point. I'm not using Flat Earth to bring people to God. That is not the route to God. The route to God is confession of sin and repentance and the work of the Holy Spirit. All we're doing is showing the lie.
I
would disagree. Only saying that maybe not to everyone, because I've literally had people tell me after describing the plane that we live on, I've had people tell me, well, that means that we've been created if we're special, and that's how it is. And I just left it at that. They came to that conclusion themselves. I didn't have to feed that into them. They just said that themselves, and I just looked at them and left them with that. So it depends on the person. For some people, flat earth is a route to God.
Well, no, the route to God, Chocolate, is the route to God is he who has the Son has life. He who has not the Son has not life. That's the route to heaven, to God. Flat Earth, it could be a reason to say there must be a God, or this leads me to believe it was created. That's the only thing it's there for. You don't go to heaven because you believe in flat Earth.
Hold on. Let me just say this again because I think it's getting missed. When we talk about a lie, right? Think about trepanning. Now, you could say, well, all those people that drilled holes into people's heads were lying about letting the demons out, but they weren't, okay? So when someone asks you why would they lie, they're the ones trying to put you in a false dichotomy. Because
very well summarized.
Everything that's happened after that, every point that's been made after that point has been assumed, has been fallacious.
Right, let me try and paraphrase it because I've thought of a good way of paraphrasing what John's trying to lay down when we put it as truth versus lies. It's truth versus motivation as the false dichotomy setup that you're buying into. So it's like, is it true versus would they want to lie about this? Well, no, that's not a true dichotomy. It's just, is it true or isn't it? Not is it true and what's their motivation? Who cares what their motivation is? It's not relevant to whether or not the statement is true. Just, is it true or isn't it? After the fact, if you want to worry about their motivation, that has nothing to do with the statement's validity. That's it.
Yeah, I want to say something here. Yeah, when someone asks you, on the point of what John said just a moment ago, when someone asks you, why would they lie? That is immediately pre-assuming that they did lie. Now, I'm not saying they did or didn't lie, but the point is that I can't prove there was a lie. I can show there was definitely things that don't match up and are wrong and incorrect, but I can't prove that the origin of those things were a lie. You know what I mean? Directly. I can show that there is people who have lied, but as far as the origin of the globe model goes, I can't prove there and then that it was a lie. I can show that people might have found out, I can show that it looks like people maybe manipulated the situation for their own gain or blah, blah, blah. But to say that why did they lie means immediately there's pre-assumption happening. And that's why I wouldn't answer it with anything. I just say I don't know what why it is what it is. I just know that this is incorrect, and this is incorrect. But
Eli,
one second then. Something you said there a minute ago. You said the path to God, you said was through the Son. I can't remember how you phrased it. But
S-O-N.
that is, yeah. Sorry?
S-O-N, the Son, Jesus Christ. That's what the Bible teaches.
Yeah. But that is a path to God through Christianity.
Correct.
Through the Bible. Not correct. That's for you, not for me.
Well, that's fine. That's why God doesn't force. No, I agree. That's why I respect everyone's right.
I just wanted to point that out. That is personal to you, as opposed to it being a broad.
Well, no, exactly. I'm not. Hang on. Let me respond. No, my turn. Sorry. Eli played a clip. Eli played the clip just a few minutes ago, and in the clip, the person was not lying. The person was just parroting the lies he was told. We just saw it in action. He ran out of answers. He saw that he was in a dilemma with logic, and he says, time to go. So John has a point, or John, that is. Now, to answer Brian's question, is this. God is not going to force and doesn't ask Christians to force the Christian message on anybody. We're to be a witness and to live the Christian life, and God, the Holy Spirit, does the saving. So to the Christian, he's always going to give credit to God. The non-Christian says, well, that's your God, and that's the Bible you believe. I don't necessarily believe it. You say, that's fine. Hurry up, hit the next shot. We're going to be late. And then I play golf with these guys all the time.
You know what I do?
Yeah,
I tell them all about the flat earth. I tell them the main stuff that I want to tell them. And then I tell them, and it also says it in the Bible. It says it in the Bhagavad Gita and other ancient texts. It says it in these ancient texts, too. That's what I do. So I do include it, but, it says it when I also say it in other books as well, but I do mention the Bible because the Bible's got a lot of truth in it. So, but I don't base it on the Bible too much because if they're not into the Bible, like I said, it throws them off.
Well, if that's the case, why not just stick with the lack of geometry since that's the only actual direct claim on the table?
Yes.
If you're so concerned with truth and how people will come away from an argument, why not stick to the most basic argument there is?
To his credit, he did open with that.
Because if you got a brain, you know that there's truth in the Bible's an intellectual book, so you'll use that too as evidence. I don't know. I'm just saying it does hold some weight, so I say it.
You missed my point, or not even. You're just not answering to what I've asked you or put to you.
Well,
Eli, he made a categorical statement. He said it turns people off. How does he know it turns people off?
Some people, not all people. Some people.
Well, then fine. Let everyone be who they are. And I, as a Christian, will use the scripture in saying, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Someone who's not will say, well, that's like Brian and me get along. I know Brian's not a Christian, and we're very good to each other. So the point is, I know I'm not doing that to convert Brian, though. I'm just stating that I'm a witness of God's work in my life, and I'm using the scripture. And Brian could take what he wants from it or not. No one on this panel has heard me pound them to Christianity for any reason, because it doesn't work that way. You don't go to heaven by saying and discovering the earth is flat.
Speak for yourself. I, for one, am very, very suspicious of Brian.
Who's giving 10 points?
Well, can I give an answer to something here? The best thing you can do, right? If somebody wants to know, well, are you claiming the Earth was created by a god, or if somebody's asking, or are you claiming that it happened through what they call bloody evolution, blah blah blah, right? The best answer to give, and I've given this answer, is the first law of thermodynamics. Just say to him, the first law of thermodynamics: neither matter nor energy can be created or destroyed. This is a fact. So you tell me. Because all we can do is replicate things. We can't create
But John
anything
pointed out,
or destroy anything. So that's a bit of a
hold on. I've got to address that now because
John Shelton.
You've taken. Hold on.
Dang,
hold on.
first.
Hello. No, you've taken it one step further without contextualizing within the ontological primitives. So yes, the first law of thermodynamics is an answer to the question in regards to the ontological primitives. Because if nature cannot be created or destroyed within nature, then that answers the question of whether or not it's a external creator or nature. Well, the laws of nature dictate that it can't be nature, so what you're left with in the true dichotomy? Well, you're left with a creator, because that's the only other option. So you've got to contextualise it first, Brian. I've just done it for you, but yes, you're absolutely correct, Brian. Who was it that was trying to get a word in that I stopped?
Eli.
I was gonna say it was funny. We was having a conversation where is it creation itself being a first law of thermodynamics violation?
Say that again. You said it too fast.
Creation itself being a first law of thermodynamics violation pointed out by John Shelton.
Yeah, that's correct. But rather than pointing out that creation itself is a first law of thermodynamics violation, that is still an appropriate description of things that occur always. It's not to say that the first law is invalid. It isn't. But it's to say that when you come to the beginning of time, how do you explain it if nature can't create itself? And that's the only option on the table versus a creator that's external to what we experience. So it doesn't violate the first law. That's a bad phraseology. Hate to be pedantic.
Everybody should just love each other.
Oh, I totally
no, it's... I disagree with you.
I'm not going to let you disagree with that.
Stuff like that.
No way.
I've seen it.
No, that's not going to get disagreed with. We should definitely all just love each other in a big hippie commune run by Kent Hovind. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!